Hey, it's Molly. Welcome back to my YouTube channel as we're going to discuss another part of your astrology chart that I hope helps you and brings some things to your attention, makes these areas of you more alive and more conscious, and also helps connect the dots about some parts of yourself that maybe you didn't see or acknowledge before. So we're going to specifically talk about what's known as this vertical axis in your chart, which is between the base of your chart, that is the IC or nadir, and goes up to the midheaven. Now, depending on which astrological house system you use, this can be between the 3rd and 4th house, going up between the 9th and 10th houses, or that vertical line could show up in particular houses. I'm going to talk about it in terms of the foundational energy in yourself, and then how that energy grows and develops through your midheaven. So in your chart, this very base foundational energy is called your IC or the nadir, and it is the most private part of your energy. It's where you know yourself. It's where you have your thoughts, your processes, your heart, your emotions. It's your internal world. And that's connected with both the 3rd house and the 4th house. The 3rd house is about how you think, how you communicate, what's going on in your mind, and how your mental energy runs. The 3rd house is also connected with early childhood experiences, connected with how you learned when you were younger. This is preschool, kindergarten, elementary. This is when you were unconscious and essentially living life. Like we grow up in a certain environment that we accept as normal. And this was your experiences of school, of learning, how you took in information, new information. The 3rd house is associated with your peers, the kids you played with, the kids you did sports with. It's also associated with your own siblings. So that 3rd house is essentially how we begin interacting with more people. It's understanding how we think and how we perceive and how your mind works, what information you take in and how you process it. Then we have the 4th house, which is associated with your internal feelings, your private world. And this is also about your immediate family, your home environment, how you grew up. Again, how your family was structured, the people around you that you lived with. This pertains to your experiences of being at home, and did you feel safe and were you cared for? Did you receive affection and attention? The 4th house is also an unconscious part of ourselves. It's associated with early childhood because it's how you first had your emotional experiences and whether or not they were validated, they were heard, they were understood. You know, what was the environment that you grew up with that was either nurturing or not, that was related to the energies that your parents created for you. And again, this might be through biological parents, this could be through foster parents, adoptive parents, whatever your situation was, it could be grandparents. But the 4th house is about your early childhood experiences of feeling safe, secure, and taken care of in your life. So both the 3rd and 4th houses are very private energies, and they're unconscious. They're the parts of ourselves that we've just accept as, this is my life, this is how I grew up, this is my family, this is how I understood things that worked and why they worked a certain way. So it's important to know that because this vertical axis that we're focusing on then takes us out into the world. And the 9th house is connected to a worldview. And when you were younger, there could have been a worldview that you were taught or a belief system that your parents raised you in. There was something that formed your worldview based on the people you lived with and their worldviews, what they believed, what they practiced, what their religion or belief systems were, what their ideologies were. And it's through understanding this energy of the ninth house that you started to understand the world at large and what there was in the world and whether or not there was something you wanted to experience or not. And then we have the 10th house, which is about what you want to be when you grow up, your first experiences of work, of life, even like the responsibilities and challenges of life. And again, how you receive that information from people you looked up to. So in this current example that I'm giving you, we're starting with you when you were younger, how you were raised, the environment, your schooling, etc. And then how your understanding of the world and what you could do in the world, what you could be in the world was colored and influenced by people you looked up to. In your chart, this vertical axis is also known as the family axis or the parental axis. And it could be that you had one parent who was more of that fourth house energy. They were emotionally available. They were there for you. They were supportive. They were the ones who would listen to you after a hard day at school. And then there's another parent who perhaps was the 10th house parent that you looked up to. Maybe they were more the disciplinarian. They were the one who was working a lot. They were more responsible. And this can be different for every person. So it could be if you're a female, you looked up to your mom. And maybe the 10th house for you represents more of your mom's energy or maternal influence. Could be vice versa. You looked up to your dad or a grandparent or whomever raised you, and their energy could be connected to your 10th house. So the energies between the 4th house and the 10th house are connected to our parents, how we were raised, how we were influenced, and what we learned from them. Now, as you grew up, became your own person, had your own life experiences, had your own experiences with work, with learning, with the world, with whatever you've done in your life. That energy then is also shown in the 9th house and the 10th house. But as you mature, it then influences and colors your own worldview, your own understanding of a belief system, your own understanding of what speaks to you, what resonates with you, your own philosophies and ideologies. And then as you work and you're in the workplace and you have different jobs, internships, you're going on a career path, then that energy becomes your own through the 10th house. So what we're looking at here is how at first what you experience is greatly influenced by your parents. And think of this energy as coming down, right? It's coming down into the childhood parts of you, the parts of you that were younger, influential, just receiving and taking in what's going on. Then as you mature and you grow up into these parts of yourself, then you're deciding your worldview and what you want to do in the world, what your dreams are, what your ambitions are, and how you're going to live life on your own terms. So this energy goes back and forth. It's up and down, but it starts with the influence of whomever raised us, how we were raised. And again, what you were taught and told that you didn't question because you weren't at that level of consciousness. You didn't have that type of life experience yet. Then as you matured, you established your own sense of this is who I am in the world, this is what I'm about, this is what I believe. And it could be radically different than what you were taught and told. So this vertical line, this parental or family axis line, shows you the influence you've had or you've received from your parents. This could also be connected to your bigger family at large. Sometimes this can be connected to a much older brother or sister, especially if there's a significant age gap. But this helps you understand the energies that you came in to work with through your family lineage and what has been unconsciously passed down, perhaps, because of your parents' worldview. because of their life experiences, because of how they grew up. And then that's when you are able to perhaps declare something differently. Or maybe you agree and you're like, yes, this is how I was raised and this works for me and this is also what I believe. So this energy is really fascinating to examine because it helps us understand what we came in with and how we're here to elevate it, level up, raise it up on our own terms. Now, the energy works in reverse. If you are a parent and you are influencing your children with your worldview, your children are going to feel that and sense that. Your children are going to be more aware of even, what is possible for them based on what you are teaching them and what you've learned. Now, this is where throughout generations, we can become more conscious and more aware of, okay, this is how I was raised. This is what my parents taught me. I'm not going to do that with my kids, or I'm going to do it slightly differently. Or even better, you're going to know your child's astrology chart and you're going to know who they are, what they need, how they're perceiving it, and you're able to understand who they are and support them based on their own energy. Now, something that's really interesting here is that this is about generational energies that are passed down, which you can usually see in the fourth house. And that's because the fourth house being about family, foundation, roots, your upbringing. The fourth house can be very revealing of what the family lineage is, the genealogy, the energies that are passed down, and how you experience them. Because your chart is unique to you, and your siblings are going to have a different chart. So your siblings could have something different in their fourth house, but that's how they experience the family lineage or the generational energies. Now, this is also interesting to watch how it plays out when you're figuring out what you want to be in the world, who you want to be when you grow up, your profession, what you want to go out and experience, the adventures you want to have, because that can be very colored by your influences and what you were told and taught. And something that, if these energies are really powerful for you, if you have a lot, especially in the fourth house and 10th house, you could have a strong influence from your parents or from others around what is possible for you in your life based on their own belief systems or their own understandings of the world. This is where it can be really interesting to look at what has been passed down to me. Is that true? Do I want to pass that down to my kids? And what am I going to do with this to change it up or to shift it? And there's a show I really like. It's called The Prophet by Marcus Lemonis, and it's a business show, and he goes in and he analyzes people's businesses, looks at their balance sheet, talks about what they're doing right, what they're doing that can be improved, etc. And what I've noticed, and this is just an anecdotal story, is how when he goes into businesses that are multi-generational, meaning grandpa started it, passed it down to his son, and then passed it down to the daughter. Like when it's multi-generational, he talks about how those have a lower percentage of being successful. And I think this is a good thing to understand because the energy of that business started with the grandpa's energy, right? The grandpa's desire, what his ambitions were, what he wanted to do. And maybe the father, his son, felt an obligation. I want to carry the torch. I want to make my dad proud. I want to do this business. But maybe it wasn't really for him. And then it gets passed down to another generation where the energy can be very different. And maybe you have a daughter who's running it now and she's not really into it. It's not her thing because it's not her energy. So this is just one example of how when you're passing down generational energies, you can see the trends in this part of a chart. But what you're looking at is how those trends are affecting you. And if you have a strong Uranus or a strong energy here of independence, and you're like, I don't want to do something anyone else has done. I want to follow my own path. I want to be my own person and go my own way. That's going to be very clear in an astrology chart because that's how you're energetically made. And it can be interesting then to look at different charts of your family members and maybe what they experienced, what they received from their elders or their parents, and what they thought was valuable to pass on or give to a child or a younger generation. So this vertical axis, there's a lot here. It's also connected to your past life energy, which is about that IC line. And that's where you can understand more energies of the past lives, of what you're here to maybe raise up and elevate in this lifetime. And again, there's just a lot to understand here. Like I mentioned in the ascendant descendant video, planets that are squaring this axis line are going to influence it. Planets that are conjunct, planets that are trining are all going to have an influence. So this is one of the ways that astrology becomes really fascinating, very individualized, and very specific, is that you follow these energy trails and it brings up a story. It tells you more. It gives you insights that, again, maybe it was unconscious and now you're seeing it differently and you're seeing it from a different viewpoint around how you were raised, what you were taught, what you received, and how that then forms what you do in the world, where you think you can be successful or what you want to offer into the world at large. So I know we covered a lot here, but I hope this has been interesting. I hope this has been insightful. I do have an astrology class that's all about the astrology of relationships and how to look at your chart through that lens of relationships. And in that class, we go through 10 different types of relationships and basically the energy trails of each of them. So I'll put that information below in case this is something you want to go deeper into. Otherwise, thank you for joining me. I hope this was useful and interesting and gives you something to look at in your chart with new eyes. And I'll be back here soon with another YouTube video. Thank you so much for your likes, your shares, comments, and subscribes. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you back here soon.